Welcome to the world of maths. Today we are going to discuss about types of vectors. First, let us see what is a zero vector, or which can also be said as a null vector. We have seen vectors of types having an initial point and terminal point. In this vector AB, A is the initial point and B is its terminal point. But consider a vector which is just a point vector. In this vector, we can say that the initial and the terminal points coincide. That is, the initial and terminal points occur at the same place, or we can say that the initial and the terminal points coincide in a zero vector because the vector is just a point vector. So the initial and terminal points coincide in a zero vector. So the first thing to note in a zero vector is that the initial and terminal points of the vector coincide. Now this vector do not have any magnitude. So we can say that the zero vector do not have any magnitude because it is just a point vector. So we can say that the zero vector do not have any magnitude. That is the second thing to note in a zero vector, that is the zero vector do not have any magnitude, or zero vector there is no magnitude for a zero vector. Third thing is that the zero vector can be assigned any direction. It does not have any definite direction. For example, this vector can go in this direction, or in this direction, or in this direction, or in this direction. So we can say that the zero vector has any direction. So there are three things to note in a zero vector or a null vector, that is the initial and terminal points in the zero vector coincide. There is no magnitude for a zero vector, and the zero vector can be said to go in any direction. Now let us discuss what are unit vectors. Unit vectors are the vectors having magnitude as 1 units. So the magnitude of a unit vector should be 1 units or unity, and these vectors are usually represented as a cap, b cap, c cap, etc. Let this be vector A, and the unit vector in the direction of vector A is represented as a cap. Now let us see what are co-initial vectors. Consider this vector AB, and in this vector A is the initial point and B is its terminal point. Now we can draw another vector having A as its initial point and say C as its terminal point. Now we can draw another vector using the same initial point A, and here in this vector A is the initial point and let us say D is its terminal point. So we can say that vectors AB, vector AC and vector AD are co-initial vectors. So what are co-initial vectors? Co-initial vectors are the vectors having same initial point. So in these three vectors, A is the initial point. So all these three vectors have the same initial point as A. So we can say that vectors AB, AC and AD are co-initial vectors having the same initial point as A. So the main key word to note in co-initial vectors are that all those vectors have the same initial point. So we can say that infinitely many vectors can be drawn using the same initial point, right? This is a vector, this is a vector, this is a vector, this is a vector, and infinitely many vectors can be drawn using the same initial point. So we can say that co-initial vectors, infinitely co-initial vectors can be drawn. If you like our channel, please do subscribe and hit the bell button. Thank you.